Looking like he stepped straight out of a 90s martial arts movie, Keith Hackney brought a peculiar style to the Octagon, engaging in battles that would go viral decades later. Nicknamed the Giant Killer, Hackney was part of that elite group of fighters who earned a permanent place in the hearts of early UFC fans. His career was short but intense. Now, nearly 30 years later, many fans ask, whatever happened to Keith Hackney? Born in Roselle, Illinois on April 15, 1958, Hackney began his athletic journey at age 11, training in wrestling and boxing under his father's influence. At 16, he fell in love with Taekwondo, eventually earning a black belt after years of competition. In 1990, he specialized in Kenpo Karate, the discipline he would represent in his UFC debut. In 1994, Hackney was recruited by producer Artie Davey for UFC 3, stepping in as a last-minute replacement for an injured fighter. It was in his very first bout that Hackney became the protagonist of one of the most memorable moments of that era. Facing the intimidating sumo world champion Emmanuel Yarbrough, who stood twice his size and weighed nearly 620 pounds, Hackney proved that size isn't everything. Blending technique with raw aggression, he dropped Yarbrough with a violent palm strike. Yarbrough attempted a comeback, getting up and literally pushing Hackney through the cage door, but the momentum was short-lived. Keith charged back in, unleashing a barrage of punches to the head that forced the referee to stop the fight. Unfortunately, the brutal finish resulted in a broken hand, forcing Hackney to withdraw from the tournament. Returning at UFC 4, his next opponent was even more eccentric, Joe Sun, a fighter representing his own art called Joe Sondo. This fight also became legendary, as Hackney took advantage of the lack of rules to mercilessly strike his opponent's groin, a sequence that has since become one of the most famous clips in MMA history. Joe Sun eventually tapped out to a neck crank. Advancing to the finals, Hackney faced the tournament favorite, Royce Gracie. He actually performed well initially, landing heavy shots that bruised the Brazilian's face. However, as the fight hit the ground, Royce eventually secured an armbar to end the match. After one final UFC appearance in 1995, where he was defeated by Marco Ruas, Hackney hung up the gloves for good. At the time, nursing several injuries, he concluded that the physical toll of fighting was no longer worth the financial return. To that end, he was already a successful businessman before ever venturing into MMA, owning Hackney's Classic Heating and Cooling in Roselle, Illinois. In the following years, he focused on growing his business. Using the prize money from his fights, he opened his own gym, Hackney's Combat Academy, where he began teaching MMA and Kenpo Karate. He also moved into event promotion, creating the American Predator Fighting Championship, an organization dedicated to amateur and professional fights in the Midwest. Today, at 67 years old, Hackney remains active, managing his businesses and teaching daily at his academy. However, his years as a martial artist have, in his own words, taken their toll. Having undergone multiple surgeries on both knees and shoulders, he now turns to alternative medicine to manage chronic pain. Recently, he interviewed with a prominent stem cell clinic, stating that after 6 months of treatment, he's already seeing significant results. Despite his brief stint in the UFC, Keith Hackney etched his name into the history of the sport with thrilling fights and a one-of-a-kind style. Even with the lingering aches from past battles, he remains grateful for everything he achieved and intends to continue passing his knowledge to future generations for the rest of his life.